Okay, happy Monday. It is Chai Elul. Chai, the life of the month of El. Today is very special because it is the birthday of both the Baal Shem Tov, Yisrael Baal Shem Tov, and the Alter Rebbe. And Yisrael Baal Shem Tov has an interesting story. I'll just say what everybody already knows. Baal Shem Tov, first of all, is the founder of the Hasidic movement, which means not that he didn't introduce anything new. A movement in Judaism is not, well, like in the true sense of the term, not like reform movement or conservative movement. But a movement just means we're emphasizing a different part of the Torah. A new part of the Torah is to be revealed and emphasized. So the Baal Shem Tov brought about, the main thing of the Baal Shem Tov was he's revealing all parts of the Torah to everybody. Before it was, Torah was exclusive to Yechidi Segula, special people who had good heads. First of all, families that could afford to send their children away to a yeshiva, which was unheard of. And you had to be very special. And so therefore, if you had any questions in Torah or Torah learning, there was nobody to answer them in your town. And that's why you had what's called Amaratzim. You had people who just didn't know much. Some of us have grandparents, let's say, who they do a lot of Torah observant things, but they can't tell you why, and they can't tell you what if something goes wrong, and so on and so forth. What the Baal Shem Tov did was he moved from place to place. He not only did he make Torah accessible, but he himself went out and brought shluchim, emissaries, to bring Torah forward. He revealed himself at the age of 36. His parents died when he was 5. They died about a year apart. There's a famous story surrounding their Elijah the prophet. They weren't able to have children. They hosted somebody who was clearly not keeping Shabbos and didn't really care about Judaism. It turned out to be Elijah the prophet, all these different things, and said, you will have a child. And they named him Yisrael. The name Yisrael obviously is the name of the Jewish people. It says that the Jewish people were in a state of faint during that period of time in our history. A series of tremendous calamities and misfortune and what's called when you lose like encouragement. You're not into it anymore. There was that was really going on, that was rampant upon the Jewish world. And we were in a state of hisalfus, as is described in tradition. We were in a state of faint. We were fainting, meaning our Judaism was fainting. It was like fading in and out. There was no life or energy to it. And it says when a person faints, they pass out. The Talmud tells us you should whisper their name into their ear, because your name represents your essence. So it tells you want to know what's your destiny in life. Perhaps you can argue that, well, what is your name? And that is going to be your guiding light. So your name, so the Jewish people were in a state of faint. We were already fainted, and we needed the name whispered. And what's the Jewish people's name? Yisrael, called B'nai Yisrael, B'nai Israel. And that is what the Baal Shem Tov, that's why the Baal Shem Tov's name is Yisrael. He came as the one to wake up the Jewish people, but he didn't wait for people to come to him. He went to the people. That's why Chabad does what it does, pushed by the Rebbe, because that's who we are. We go out. Not just Chabad, anybody. Everybody should be doing that. You know Aleph, you teach Aleph. And so this new emphasis in Torah, this new part of Torah, the essence of Torah, Chassidus, was revealed and accessible to everybody. That's why there was such hisnagdus, there was such conflict, there was such opposition, because from Lamaila, from heaven, there was a big to-do whether this should actually happen or not. Because basically what's happening is Torah is being wasted. We're giving away all the secrets, but the people are not really able to appreciate them. It's not time. Perhaps it's not time. And this opposition really came into fruition when the Alter Rebbe was born. I mean, not when the Alter Rebbe was born. During the Alter Rebbe's lifetime, Rishner Zalman Yeliadi, especially when he came out with Tanya, Bukoti Torah and Tanya, he took this to the next level. Basically, what he explained, what he was able to do was, he was able to explain the deepest secrets of Torah, the essence of Torah, intellectually, that you can appreciate it, not just be around people like that, which is very important. It's very important to be in an environment and surround yourself with people who you would like to emulate, because that is how you're going to act. So the Baal Shem Tov sort of created that. He would create environments and feelings of warmth and love for Judaism and Torah, but you had to be around him, so to speak. What the Alter Rebbe did around him and his people, what the Alter Rebbe did was, now you're going to become your own little oven. You're going to be able to intellectually understand and intellectually appreciate it, and therefore that's going to lead to having feelings and appreciation for Torah and Judaism, and you yourself are going to become this living entity, this entity that loves Judaism and Yiddishkeit, and you don't need to be necessarily surrounded by, it's still very important, and you should create an environment like that, but you don't necessarily need to be around great giants in order to have a love and appreciation for Torah. And the opposition was at its climax during that period of time, and a couple years later. Anyway, these two great luminaries, these two great giants in our people's history were born on Chai Elul. We're now 12 days from Rosh Hashanah, and we know, like I explained last week, each of these 12 days are connected or connected. They're connected to the 12 months, the previous 12 months of the year. So whenever you want to rectify in the month of Tishrei, which is the first month of the Jewish calendar, that you could do today by thinking about what did you do in the month of Tishrei. And I want to tell you a quick little interesting thing, a personal thing. I shared this with somebody who's in Mayanot Yeshiva now, which was the yeshiva that I went to when I was 18. So it was 18 years ago. So I'm 36. I'm going to reveal myself today, just like the Baal Shem. Just kidding. I'm not going to do that. You've seen it all. This is who I am. I went to yeshiva. I remember when I went to yeshiva, I think I've told this story before. And they said in yeshiva, okay, so now we're at the last 12 days. Think of the last 12 months of the year. What did you do each of those months? And what would you do differently, et cetera, et cetera. So I began, and I'm like, I have no idea. So I was like, the month of September, when school started, October, November. I'm like, okay, in September, I don't even know. I have no idea what I did in September. October was Halloween, the last day of October. I think I knew where I was. I can't tell you what I was feeling or what was going on. November, I had to wait till Thanksgiving. I was like, yeah, some people came over our house. December 31st. Basically, each month, some months I didn't have anything written down. And some months was just like, I don't know, we watched TV on my day off from school. There was nothing. I look over to the guy right next to me who grew up from Baruch Ackerman, and his page was completely, every month had like 12, 13 things on it. And I turned to him and I said, how could you possibly know what you did each of these last 12 months? I don't understand. Well, he's like, well, very simple. He's like, in the month of Tishrei, I was Rosh Hashanah here, I was Yom Kippur here, Sukkot here, Simchas Torah here, and then I remember the last couple of days of I flew back home and I saw everybody, and this is kind of like how I acted. Then Cheshvan came and I went back to yeshiva, and I remember my first class in yeshiva, and then I remember Fridays doing this, and I remember Wednesdays we always did this, and he went on and on, that each day was so rich. He could remember, okay, 18 or 19 out of the 30 days of the month, of every single month. I was blown away. And I remember thinking, wow, this is like, if I live my life, it didn't make me necessarily like frum or anything religious, but I was like, to be presented with an opportunity that each day can be like accounted for. I can know what I'm doing each day. And it's so true. If you look back, I can basically tell you for the most part where I was each week of the previous year and like kind of what was going on. And just so rich and amazing. Anyway, that's the last 12 days of the year. We're in the last 12 days. This Shabbos is Shabbos Shuvah. This is Shabbos of last Shabbos of the year. And it rectifies all the previous Shabbosim. As we know, the line in the Torah, the line in Talmud says, Akol hoylech acher achitim. Everything goes according to the way you end it. Yeah, you could have done a terrible job the previous year, but if you ended on a great note, you could just, on a high note and a note that propels you forward, you could just say, the way it seems is those were just steps to get to where I am now. And it was a great year. Obviously, it was a hard year, perhaps, let's say, but it was all there. We found a way to win. It was an ugly way, but that's what we needed to do to find a way to win. I live in Detroit, and our sports teams are terrible. Not that I really follow sports, but you can't help but be around people who follow sports. The Detroit Lions, for those of you who live in America, are notoriously have been horrible ever since like the creation of their team. But they ended the year so well, even though they had a losing record. This is a football team, that they have extremely high expectations coming into this coming year, which shows however you end it is kind of your expectations for the year to come. Now, let's we don't have so much time today, so I want to move right into the Parsha, and we'll continue with the Rosh Hashanah, because this week's Parsha, Nitzavim-Vayelech, it's a double Parsha. It is a double Parsha, yet it is a very tiny Parsha. This is the Parsha that is always read right before Rosh Hashanah, and it's very interesting, very apropos, that this Parsha is on the last day of Moses' life, according to most opinions. Rashi, however, says that this day, there's many interpretations of the Torah. Yeah, 70 faces of the Torah, many different interpretations of the Torah. Torah says, Rashi says that today, when it says, you are all standing here today, that's the opening lines of the Parsha. You're all standing here today. Your wood choppers, your judges, the water carriers. What is it? Rashi says, what does it mean today? What is today? Today is Rosh Hashanah. That we're standing here on Rosh Hashanah. Obviously, how fitting and apropos it is, because it is Rosh Hashanah coming up. You're all sitting here today, and if you learn later on the Parsha, it doesn't just mean those 3 million people that were standing there at the time. It actually refers to all the souls. All of the souls of the Jewish people are standing there today. So Moshe opens up talking about a covenant. God is going to make a covenant with the Jewish people. What is a covenant? A covenant means that no matter what's going on in the future, whatever our relationship takes us, the ups and the downs, we're always going to stick together. We have many different covenants throughout the Torah. Our feelings towards each other might change, but our devotion will always remain the same. The Torah tells us what? Who says that? Not Rashi? That what? That it's Rosh Hashanah? Not Rashi? Schneer's never here during this period, and he's never allowed back. I don't know. I don't know why I have Rashi. Okay, I don't have it in front of me, so I'll look it up. But what? No, I think it's Alter Rebbe. Sorry, the Alter Rebbe. For sure, the Alter Rebbe brings down that it's referring to Rosh Hashanah. The Zohar explains that the Jewish people are guarantors for one another. The reason why the Torah over here, the reason why it states that the water carrier is standing together with the judge, it's the wood chopper, all different types of people are standing here today. The Zohar explains that every Jew is a guarantor for one another. Now, the big question is, how could I be a guarantor for a multi-billionaire? Yeah, someone, let's say I'm just a lowly, I shouldn't say lowly. Let's say I'm a garbage collector. And how am I going to be a guarantor for someone who sits on the Sanhedrin, on the big judge, the big court system, a super genius? So the Zohar explains that every single person, we're all made up of one body. The Jewish people are one collective body. So everyone will agree that the head, the brain, is it's the control center. It's the most smartest, brilliant. Sits on the top. It is the ultimate organ or muscle organ of the entire body. Yet, the Zohar explains, the body, the head, the brain can't get anywhere without the feet. That each body part has a special quality that another body part does not have, and therefore you have an edge. Everybody has an edge, and therefore the Torah says we're guarantors for one another. Now, where are we guarantors for another person? Only those sins that they do publicly. Someone does something publicly, the Rebbe would say, you should never, if you have an issue with another Jew, you should never make it public. You should never publicly or publish or say anything negative about the person publicly. It should always be in the private, because we're all arevim zeh b'zeh, we're all guarantors for one another. So when it comes to a person who sins publicly, we have to step up and protect them as hard as that could be. Okay, each ask your Rav when you step in, when you don't. I mean, there's certain egregious things that happen in the world that I'm not exactly sure how I'll defend this person, but we have to find a way. If there's a way, if there's a will, there's a way. Now, those sins, however, that are done privately, what are you going to do? You can't really do much about them. Therefore, we're not a guarantor in that particular area, but in the area of public embarrassment, we have to step up. Just moving through the Parsha, now I would open. Now, why is Moshe making this covenant now? Why is Moshe saying all these different things? See, Rabbi Schneer? You still have to make a class on Wednesday. Yeah, okay. Why are you Schneer's going to New York? Those what you want to know for a big wedding. Why is Moshe making the covenant now? Why is Moshe speaking about all these things now? Loving God and fearing God. We said it many, many times because it took us 40 years. We're saying it now 40 years after we went into the desert. And the Torah says it takes 40 years for a Talmud, a student, to understand his rabbi's teachings. I remember Rabbi Silverberg saying once, he never understood why Hasidim cry while they pray. Now they're saying the same words, and that we understand it the same, don't we? But he seems to say that through life experiences, you appreciate things in a newer level, a newer dimension. I just remember him saying that once on this week's Parsha. So it took us 40 years, and that's why we're going to have some very key phrases coming up. So let's see. Now, this covenant that Hashem is making with the Jewish people, that no matter what we do, even though Hashem, God says Moses says you are going to stray, you are going to mess up. Interesting. So it's all done by design. You should know that. But no matter what, my devotion for you is never going to be severed, unlike what other religions will say about us. And this covenant renews itself every year on Rosh Hashanah. On Rosh Hashanah, let's explain basically what's going on in Rosh Hashanah. So on Rosh Hashanah, all of the souls of the Jewish people, actually all of the souls of humanity, of creation, are going up to the world of Atzilus, the world of emanation, which is the deepest part within Hashem, and it's judged collectively, which is most people don't really realize that. It's judged collectively. And then the blessing is given, and how you're going to draw down your particular blessing is how the blessings are going to be drawn down into this world. So the worlds the blessing gets given, put in escrow, remains in the world of Atzilus. You, on a daily basis, can draw down your particular, however much you need. So that's going to be dependent on you, how you act, and how much you accept God's kingship upon yourself. In other words, what does that mean, accept God's kingship upon yourself? How selflessly you're going to live your life. How much devoted and connected to God you'll be. So clearly, when you're selfless, you're an open vessel. Yeah, it's not about, you're not stuffed up with my own ego, my own arrogance. You're an open vessel, and allows the brachas, the blessings, to drop and fall right in. Easier said than done, may I add. But nevertheless, we can do it. Now on Rosh Hashanah, so it's all judged collectively. Now, thank God things are judged collectively. Let me ask you, how many? This is a good question. This is a big question. How many of you think, which percentage of the Jewish people participated in the sin of the golden calf? Yeah, the big golden calf. We made the idol 40 days after we received the Torah. Which percentage? Would you say 100%, 90%? Anybody have any guess? Nobody has a guess? Anybody there? Just throw out a number. Be embarrassed. It's okay.
10%.
1%? Who said 1%? Very close. It's about 5 to 7% of the Jewish people really participate. It was the Erev Rav. And they got a few Jews in there. Very small percentage of the Jewish people were. But nevertheless, it was a very influential part. It was an influential part. And what it could have led to, that percentage could have led to having an effect upon the entire Jewish people. But nevertheless, it says all of you guys participated, except for the tribe of Levi and the women, but all of you participated in the sin of the golden calf. It's not true. A very small percentage of us did. But what it says in the negative could also be applied in the positive. That in order for us to receive blessing, or for Mashiach to come, people think that the world is not ready. Look, I don't even feel it. I hardly feel it. Maybe certain times of the day, but what is it? 1% of the people, 1% of the Jewish people really believe that, are really trying to bring Mashiach and really trying to do the right thing. There's no way it's going to happen. But the Torah is telling us it doesn't need to be all of you. It just needs to be a qualitative amount of people, not a quantitative, but a qualitative amount of people in order for it to happen, for something to happen. So therefore, thank God that God judges us in a collective group, because hopefully there's one or two big tzaddikim that Hashem is judging us with, that it will have its proper effect, that'll have a positive effect on the rest of the Jewish people, which we do believe. This Shabbos is Shabbos. Saturday night, we're going to begin Slichas. Yeah, we're going to begin the supplication prayers where we start banging on our chests and waking up early and asking God for forgiveness to prepare ourselves for Rosh Hashanah. Chabad has a custom to make a big farbrengen before we go into Slichas, and we go in shakel dicker hate or vakel dicker hate. We go in like shaky. In other words, we say a lot of l'chaim, which is like a bit confident. Yeah, it's very like, it's almost like arrogant that I'm going to ask God for forgiveness, but I'm going to get a little tipsy, sometimes a little bit very tipsy. And the reason is because we're going in with confidence. We already know that we're going to win and we're going to be victorious because God, first of all, has a covenant with us and he wants us to win. For those that are very spiritually sensitive, not myself, but those giants of the Jewish people in our history who are sensitive to the relationship with God, they already know that God is going to give us whatever we need. And that doesn't mean that the work doesn't need to be done. The work still has to be done, but yet it is going to work and it's going to work out for us. We go in with confidence, and we're going to begin that Saturday night. So that's called Slichas. So this covenant with God renews itself on Rosh Hashanah, where everything gets rejudged and judged in a positive way. What's going to be for the year to come? What are you going to need? And then some. God always gives us more than we need. This covenant, by the way, the Abarbanel, who lived in the 16th century, 16th century, says that this covenant that God made with us is sensed by the non-Jewish world, and therefore we will never be accepted by the non-Jewish world. Just interesting. As a collective group, individually maybe be accepted or whatever, but the Jewish people as a whole will never fully be accepted. That's the Abarbanel's opinion. Obviously, when Mashiach comes, there will be a what's it called? Acceptance as such. Just continue on Rosh Hashanah. Rosh Hashanah is called Eloi Berodada. It's called rejoicing. It's a day of rejoicing with trembling. It's a muted holiday. We tremble because it's a judgment day, but we're rejoicing because we know we're confident that the renewal of the covenant with God will be positive. One of the things we do is we blow the shofar. You don't need to hear the shofar more than 30 blasts on Rosh Hashanah. Rosh Hashanah is going to take place Saturday, right? Saturday and Sunday, not this coming Shabbos and Sunday, but the following. We're not going to blow the shofar on Shabbos. We don't blow the shofar on Shabbos like we explained last week. But we blow the shofar. Chabad has a custom blow the shofar 100 times or 101 times, and the reason is we want to confuse the Satan. So a lot of us, I always say this every year. What is Satan, the Satan? So we're blowing the shofar, and the judgment takes place, like we explained last week, when we blow the shofar. When the first blasts of the shofar come out, that's when the judgment takes place. And I think it takes time for the Satan, who I'll explain what that is in a moment, to carry out his prosecuting judgment. So we blow shofar, and he's waiting for us to finish blowing the shofar, and he gets confused, and he thinks it's done, and we confuse him. It makes him confused. Now, what does that mean? We make him confused, and who is the Satan? So, something you need to know. There are two categories of angels. Well, there's 5 categories of angels if you look in the Rambam. But there are 2 types of angels in this category. There are the angels which always exist, like Malach Gabriel and Michal, Gabriel and Michael, the angel of severity, of judgment, and the angel of water and chesed. And then there's angels who only live for a moment. They only they only exist to carry out one mission, and it's a category of angels. Srafim, Chayes, Veifanei HaKodesh. There are these different types of angels, and there's an innumerable number of angels within each one of those categories. Satan is a type of angel. It's a prosecuting angel, not against God. There's nothing against God. The job of the Satan is to prosecute or to see the other side of a Jew's, a Jew's doing good. Let me try to find something negative. Not there to harm the Jewish people, not there to fight God or anything like that. No, he's a servant of God, works for God. It's a type of angel. So when we confuse the Satan, it's because when the first shofar blast comes out, that one Satan, angel or whatever, goes and brings a judgment, and then there's another shofar blast coming out, and they bring another judgment, and it's very confusing. They look stupid in court, so to speak. They look foolish in court. That's the idea of a very dumbed down, simple version of what exactly the Satan means. Okay, the Torah talks about what if we forsake God, the consequences of forsaking God, which we explained last week, that these are not punishments, these are consequences. A stressful person, you see it in life, a person of who in themselves has a lot of stress and anxiety, they create an environment of stress and anxiety. Do you know what I mean? They don't, they can be around people who are not stressful and anxiety, but then they create negative energy. And then there's negative, it follows them because they themselves, it's just a consequence. And then it's just a consequence of how they're acting, and they create that environment. They think everyone's against them. No, it's just you just make it toxic in here. I don't want to hang around you. Oh, this person doesn't want to talk to me and hang around me. That's because you're not easy to talk to. You're making it difficult to talk to you. It's you, man. It's not me. Sometimes it's me. But these are consequences. So, if this is beyond my scope of understanding anyway, and I don't know anybody who could talk, who gets what punishment, and are these really punishments, not punishments, and did you do something wrong in a previous life and years ago? Okay, the Rebbe seems to be you're not going to figure that out. And that's not what we do. You just try to do good and be kind all the time. Do what you're supposed to do, follow halacha, and be kind. B'darchei nayim, b'darchei shalom. Do it. Don't just do Torah and halacha and Jewish law to get it done, but it should be done in a beautiful, pleasant way. And that creates a beautiful, pleasant environment and a more beautiful, pleasant life for yourself. Okay. Okay, chapter 30, verse 1 and 2. God, Hashem will, if you listen to God's voice, then don't worry, you're going to do tshuva, you're going to listen to God's voice, everything's going to work out fine in the end. Like we said before, you don't need everybody to be on board. You just need a qualitative amount of people. Let me just go on. There's something I want to say. Okay. Now, in this week's parsha, in the beginning of the parsha, I just want to point something. Hashem shav shuvascha. It says that Hashem will surely return those that are captive. In other words, that there's going to come a point that we're going to be all over the world, which is like today, and Hashem is going to return those people. We're going to return all the Jews back in the land of Israel. Now, it should have said, it uses the word shav. Shav means, and he will return. Meaning Hashem himself will return. Not that Hashem will return your captives, but there's going to come a time that Hashem himself will return with your captives. And this is the Talmud tells us from here that when we go into exile, where we're in a state of exile, we're not where we're supposed to be, Hashem also is in a state of exile. Hashem is in Galus with us together. But there's a deeper part of Hashem that schleps us out. There's it's only on the surface. The world right now is compared to a sleeping. God is sleeping. What does it mean when a person's sleeping? A person's alive when they're sleeping, and the brain activity is still going on, and the heart is still pumping, and messages are still being sent, but it's much slowed down, and you don't see it outwardly. It's all taking place within the subconscious. It's all taking place inside. The world is going. I can sense there's something going on. I can sense there's something deeper and alive going on over here, but I don't see it. It's not apparent because it's asleep. There's a deeper part of Hashem that can wake himself. Hashem is going to wake himself up because we're going to wake ourselves up. And then we're all going to go back together as one big happy family. May it be immediately. It says in verse 6, Hashem will circumcise your heart, that is an acronym for the month of El. There's two parshas. Akev also says Hashem will. It says you will circumcise your heart. If you will circumcise your heart, then Hashem will do good. And then over here it says Hashem will circumcise your heart, and then you will do good. So which one is it? Who circumcises whose heart? So what is the circumcision? The circumcision removes the most outward thick membrane, the most insensitive part of the organ. And then there's if you ever go to a bris, a circumcision, there's two parts of the circumcision. There's the priya, there's the mila and priya. That there's the you remove the outer membrane, and then there's another smaller membrane that's a little bit more difficult to remove, and that's what the mohel, that's his expertise. So over here, what God is saying in Parshas Eikev, if you do your part in removing the coarseness, like the insensitivity towards godliness, you try to not overindulge in the material world, that'll be one level. And then Hashem will be able to take care of the more refined, the deeper part, the more difficult part to remove. Hashem himself will take care of that. So you don't have to take care of all of it. You might think, oh, I'm never going to get to all of it. I got so much going on. It's true. It's true. We all do by design, and God will take care of it. Then I'll just end over here with the foundation of the foundational pasuk passage of the Tanya. God says, or Moshe says, that this thing, the loving and fearing God, is very close to you. It's very near to you. It's very relevant. You might, Simon Jacobson once asked the Rebbe, can I interpret this passage to mean that Torah is relevant in my life? And the Rebbe said yes. So I like to go with that interpretation. That Torah is relevant. It's not far. It's not in the heavens. It's relevant to your life and in your mouth. In other words, you can speak it, and in your heart, you could feel it. And and you can do it. It's not something that's difficult. Just that's what the Tanya comes to teach us how to do it. I got all these other problems going on in my life, all these physical problems, mental, psychological problems. How am I going to get through it? Torah says that's what the book of Tanya is. The book of Tanya is a manual to address all those issues and to talk it over with somebody else. You can't learn Tanya by yourself. You know that? The Alter Rebbe himself writes that. You have to learn it with somebody else. Okay, I'm going to stop here. Does anybody have any questions? I don't know why I had to speak so fast, but I always feel rushed. Any questions?
Shalom, Shabbat. Shabbat.
Yeah.
Shalom.
Shalom.
Okay. Shalom. This is Katerina. Just to ask, so Chabad is going to start Selichot next after Shabbat?
Yes, this Shabbat. This Shabbat.
This Shabbat.
Yes, this Saturday night. Then we don't say it on Sunday, and then we say it Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday morning before
early night.
Not Thursday night. Monday morning.
No, early night, late night, like.
Oh yeah, we say it
morning.
after. That's all. Yeah. Saturday night we say it like 1 o'clock in the morning or 1:30 in the morning.
1 o'clock in the morning. So it's not like Sephardi or other Ashkenazi or Italian. It's different.
Yeah, so Sephardim have been saying it since the beginning of the month of El, early in the morning.
Elul, yeah. And Ashkenazi last yesterday, I think.
Oh, they did? It could be. Yeah, it makes sense. I have no idea.
Thank you.
Shabbat is Sephardic wannabes. Just kidding, we're not. Okay, Moshe said, is the Shekhinah which is in it? Is it the Shekhinah which is in exile? Yes, the Shekhinah, that divine presence that we can sense, that's what's in exile. Yes, the ability to feel God, to be sensitive to God, that is what's in exile. And then, yeah, David Freeman. Okay, with that, I wish you all a good rest of the day.
You too, thank you.
Yeah, Rivka, good to see you. All right.
You too. Bye.
See you guys. See you, David. Be well.